Hi, welcome once again to the Beer Temple. I am Chris Quinn, and I am with my lovely wife, Margaret Quinn.
Hi, everybody.
How are you?
Doing great.
You doing well today?
I had a good day.
Cool. So we are doing yet another new release. Just been a whole bunch coming out lately. We've done the Bourbon Counties, we did the Alpine Spring, and now we're doing the Sierra Nevada Ruthless Rye IPA.
Very excited about this because I'm a Sierra Nevada fan.
You're a Sierra Nevada fan. It's so funny. I used to kind of poo-poo them because I'm an idiot. And I mean like years ago, like when I first started getting into craft beer. I was like, oh man, just because that was my dad's craft beer, you know, which it wasn't.
Not really.
My dad drank Rolling Rock.
Right.
But, I mean, you just, they're one of they're maybe the most respected, for me, the most respected craft brewery in the country.
Wow.
I mean, they're just class act, don't put out a bad product. Their practices in general are just so head and shoulders above everybody else, really, at that scale.
Yeah, and I love the environmental practices.
That's kind of what I mean,
The environmental practices, and I love like the estate, you know, the kind of the estate part of it.
I mean, the guys invented the Harvest Ale, or basically reinvented it, brought it back from the dead, invented the American Pale Ale, and that's probably not it. I mean, I bet you they've invented more stuff besides that as well. Oh, and the estate beer. That's the other one. Yeah, the estate, the Harvest, and I mean, they're just...
I just love that concept, the estate beer.
Yeah.
And then for those who don't know, an estate beer is when the brewer actually makes or has all the ingredients grown on premise, basically.
Yeah, and with them it was everything. I mean, they even treated their own local water.
Right. And so they grow their own, you know, barley, have their own hops, everything right there, which I think is a really cool concept.
Yeah, they had like a railroad tie put in at their brewery just for environmental reasons. They didn't have to truck stuff back and forth to the train stations. The trains can now literally go into the brewery. So cool. And a little bit of Sierra Nevada news, they're now opening up an East Coast brewery in Asheville, North Carolina, which I think we mentioned on a previous show.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting too.
That's really cool. So now you know, for all over the country, you can get the freshest stuff available. And except for Chicago, because we're probably like, you know, midpoint between both of them. But we're probably closer to Asheville.
Yeah,
actually, we
definitely are closer to Asheville.
Anyway, this is their new seasonal. It is Ruthless Rye. We were talking again in the last episode about how Sam Adams was pushing the envelope with their Keller beer. You know, Sierra Nevada doing a Rye IPA, I mean, that's something that was kind of out there a couple of years ago, you know, using rye and an IPA. I mean, rye has been a brewing grain for forever. But really, in modern times, was all but forgotten about. And then the craft brewers of America brought it back and started using it more and more. A pretty well-known one is by Founders, who we had on a couple shows ago with their Centennial IPA. They have a really excellent rye IPA called Red's Rye IPA. Two Brothers also does a great one.
The Cain and Abel by Two Brothers is probably my favorite. It really sticks out in my head as my favorite.
Yeah.
I really like rye IPAs. I like the spicy character that rye gives to a beer. And I'm hoping that we'll see this today with the Sierra Nevada.
Yeah. And one thing I want to mention when we talk about wheat beers or rye beers, the main grain is still going to be barley. You can have it up over 50%. In fact, German Hefeweizens and German wheat beers need to have at least 50% wheat. But rye beers aren't going to come anywhere near 50% typically. I mean, they're going to be maybe at 10%, something like that. So it's a beer with rye added to it.
Right.
I think there has been, you know, 100% rye beers, but I've heard they are a little squeak from the dog. That was a yawn. Have you heard that? That's what it sounds like when our dog yawns.
I think it was him asking for a greenie, but yeah, it's him asking for a treat.
Got it.
Anyway, we're going to annoy that. But so a beer brewed with 100% rye doesn't sound good to me.
Well, and it's also incredibly hard to brew with. It becomes a sticky, gloopy mess just because of the properties of the grain. It's very, very hard to use. So I think that's one of the main reasons that maybe brewers hadn't worked with it, because it's much more difficult to work with than barley, which is the easiest, or even, wheat.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So really nice dark beer, a lot of brown with some kind of auburn highlights to it.
Auburn, big word. No, that's not really a big word.
Yeah, okay.
Just not what I've heard you use on the show, I don't think yet. Yeah, I would say definitely, dark, deep gold, trending into, light orange.
Crimson.
You talk like
a
J. Crew catalog. You just flip open to like page 75 of J. Crew.
No, I've got the 124 Crayola crayon pack, and I'm just like...
It's burnt sienna.
Seafoam.
All right.
All right, let's take a look at it. So also, let's talk about what the rye, talk a little bit about what rye adds to beer as well.
Well, in my mind, rye always adds sort of this really unique spice. A little bit peppery, but it's hard to put your finger on it.
Rye bread is probably the best indicator of what it adds to beer.
See,
flavor.
For me, it doesn't, because it doesn't taste like rye bread when I drink a rye beer. I just get like this little bit of like a... I'm going to say harsh, but harsh isn't really the right word. But it's like this little bit
acute. It's like an acute spice flavor.
It's almost like a little like sting, but it's not. It's not anything negative at all. But you get this little unique sting out of the beer that I always associate with a rye beer.
Yeah, you get a nice sting to it. It's funny. I was looking at the hops that they were using. In addition to experimental hops, which they just said they use experimental hops, they're using Chinook, which is very piney, and I think that would go very well with a rye beer. A lot of times you're getting kind of those deeper, darker flavors when you start using rye rather than the tropical flavors. But then they're also using Citra, the big it hop of the time, which is completely mango pineapple driven. So it's interesting. I think they're using Citra probably just a little bit to kind of brighten up a little bit from the kind of pininess of the Chinook.
And just because it's so hot right now. They just want to have Citra on the label.
Yeah, but you can get a little bit of brightness to it, but it's mainly...
Definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
A lot of brightness, but a really sturdy malt backbone is what I get.
Yeah, and also you are getting those piney, woody, kind of cedary notes as well.
Yeah, it smells really good. And I actually already cheated. I had a little sip. So let's just take a sip. I think the piney notes come through on the taste as well. You get a lot of that, kind of piney, citrusy, woodsy hop.
You do get some of that Citra in there as well. You're getting some of that, like you said, pineapple, but it's almost like that glazed pineapple, candied pineapple. But that is not the main flavor. The main flavor you're getting, first of all, is that kind of woody spice character to it. It is very nice.
Yeah, it kind of tastes like I would imagine men's cologne would taste like. You know what I mean? Like a dark
Funny thing about men's colognes, I'm going to hold the light while Max
walks all over the set.
Yeah, deftly.
Maneuvering.
Yeah.
Funny thing about men's cologne.
It tastes horrible. I mean, absolutely terrible. Don't ask me how I know. But yeah, it's like the foulest tasting stuff in the world.
We'll have to talk about that later.
Yeah.
Sounds like a problem. Yeah. So it just see like that the kind of overpowering, not overpowering, but big time woody, spicy, like piney flavors in it.
Yeah, and it's not like a big hop, like a pine bomb, like you can get on some of those IPAs where they're just throwing piney flavors. It's really that deep, woody, spiced flavor that you're getting with tints of pine and then brightened up with a little bit of that fruit from the Citra. I like it. It's a pretty kind of dark tasting beer from a flavor profile of an IPA.
I think I want a little more rye. Usually when I drink a rye beer, I really want to know that it's a rye beer because I enjoy rye beers. So I would like to have a little bit more of that spice in it.
Yeah. The aftertaste for me does show you a little bit of that rye. As I mentioned before, I am not very good at picking out rye very often. You're quite good at it. You get a little bit in that after. You get like a weird kind of like, not harsh, but bordering on harsh aftertaste.
Yeah.
But it's a good beer. I kind of agree with you. I would want a little bit more of that rye character that you're talking about. Maybe they wanted to play it a little bit safe. Who knows? It doesn't really sound like Sierra Nevada. But I think it's a decent beer.
Oh, yeah.
I like
absolutely.
it. I'm going to go 89 with it.
Okay.
I think it's good. I think it's something that I would definitely order at a bar, and I think it's definitely worth maybe even picking up a 6-pack and kind of working your way through it and see how it kind of grows on you.
I'll go 89 with you as well. I was going to go 90 because the Sam Adams I was at 90. I go 89 as well with this. I mean, really, it's an excellent beer, just a really solid offering. But I want a little more rye out of it.
Yeah, to each their own. Someone asked me why I coughed on the Bramble Stout episode.
Wow.
Like, why did you cough? Was it the beer? It was really me just kind of chuckling to myself, and it was a nothing. But nothing gets past these people.
I know. Probably like thinking like, wow, Margaret needs to dust her shelves behind her. That's disgusting.
No, that's what you would think that they're thinking because you're crazy.
Yep.
But barring craziness, thanks again for watching us ramble on about rye beers and our dog chirping as he yawns. If you have gotten through and still feel the inclination to leave a comment or a review on iTunes, we always appreciate that very, very much. But until then, we have some good beer to drink, and hopefully you do too.